Hey gang, welcome to another episode of Wisdom Wednesday, live from Austin Dental Spa in beautiful Austin, Texas, where it's back to mid-70s weather, supposed to even kick up to 80 next week after being in the 30s and even into the high 20s 2 weeks ago. So crazy weather. We get down here in Texas, we get all four seasons in one day. So you got to wear layers and be prepared for just about anything. So welcome to another version. Happy Valentine's Day, a little belatedly. We've been talking all this month about love rules or love rules. And today it's going to be more love rules. And we're talking about loving yourself. And then the topic is going to be about sleep. How do you sleep at night? Do you get enough sleep? And we're going to talk about all the ways that that can benefit you. The vast majority of the experts on this subject say anything less than 8 hours is not enough. And you probably already know that your body repairs itself when you're asleep. But I'm going to give you a couple of new facts that you may not have been exposed to as I studied this subject. And some of these topics, we're going to go through like six things that where sleep is affected by your body is affected by your sleep patterns. And this is from the book 52 Ways to a Healthy You by Laura Lewis, my friend who is on the other side of the camera there. So here it is. Here's 6 things that you need to know about sleep. Sleep helps the brain commit new information to memory through a process called memory consolidation. Studies have shown that people who slept after learning a task, who slept at least 8 hours after learning a task, did better on tests later. That's interesting. Doesn't work if you're in college where you're staying up all night for a test. Number 2, chronic sleep deprivation can cause weight gain. That's something that'll be of interest to a lot of people out there by affecting the way your body processes and stores carbs. I know that for a fact that if you eat right before you go to bed, your body's digestion is different when you're asleep than it would be when you're awake. And I started intermittent fasting many years ago where I eat all my calories between 1 p.m. and 9 p.m. and I try not to eat anything after 9 p.m., especially not refined carbs, because that just sits in your stomach prolonged period of time compared to if I was up and active, and it doesn't digest as quickly and I don't feel as good the next day. So it definitely affects your appetite. And so heads up, you night owls out there, of which I happen to be in that club. Number 3, a lack of sleep contributes to a greater tendency to fall asleep during the daytime. And if you're a truck driver, that wouldn't be such a good idea. I know I've been through periods where I was having a little difficulty sleeping, and then I'd be sleepy at noon or 1 o'clock. If you're driving a car down Mopac, that's not such a good idea to be sleepy during the day, and probably not a good idea for your boss to walk in and your head's down on your desk asleep either. So get that 8 hours at night, and you shouldn't have as much of a tendency to worry about that. Number 4, losing sleep may make you more irritable and impatient. Well, who says so? I know that to be a fact because I know a lot of insomniacs who are irritable during the day because they just can't get enough sleep at night, and it affects their moods during the day. We've all been there where we didn't get enough sleep a few nights in a row, getting ready to move, getting ready to go through finals, going through some kind of stressful event, and after a couple of nights of not losing sleep, you just kind of can't be in the same happy mood that you're in when you're not sleep deprived. New mothers. I had one in just yesterday that I asked how she's doing. She's like, not getting enough sleep, but otherwise she's got a less than 1-year-old at home. So that's a temporary situation, and it pays off because they're going to pick the old folks home that we end up in later. So be nice to your kids. Number 5, sleep disorders have been linked to hypertension, increased stress hormones, and irregular heartbeat. I know that to be a fact. I've read those studies that there's a direct correlation between whether you're getting enough sleep at night, enough good sleep, and blood pressure. And so obviously blood pressure is going to be higher if you're not getting enough sleep. There are things that happen at night when we're asleep that repair your cardiovascular system. So if you're not getting enough sleep, your body doesn't have enough time to do that. This is a good one. I've read a couple of studies just in the last week. Number 6, sleep deprivation alters immune functions, including the activity of the body's killer cells. That is true. One of the studies I read this week said up to 80%, but for sure at least 70% of your body's immune system, the white blood cells, the T cells, the killer cells, the macrophages, the body's first line of defense against pathogens that enter your body through your lungs, your nose, cuts or scrapes on your skin. Those white blood cells, 70 to 80% of them are manufactured in the intestinal tract, in the small and large intestine. So if you've got irritable bowel syndrome or Crohn's disease or some kind of disruption like that, or if you're not getting enough sleep and your intestines don't have the time to produce that, they do most of that work at night. So you could be harming your body's immune system and your ability to fight off pathogens like strange viruses that are floating around. Who would have thought of that? So what happens when you're asleep? Your body starts rebuilding all the tissues, bones, it makes blood cells, it makes white blood cells, and so there's a lot of interesting stuff going on there. So if you're not getting enough sleep, your alertness level could be reduced by up to 20%. And if you lose sleep over 5 days, studies show that your alertness level can fall by 50%. That's a pretty significant amount. I just saw a study this morning that is linking Alzheimer's disease to circadian rhythms. If you don't know what circadian rhythms are, that's your body's 24-hour clock that kind of dictates or gets used to when we sleep, when we eat. If you're on a regular schedule, talk to anybody that does shift work like my oldest son was doing at Samsung. When he goes on night shift and has to sleep during the day, his body gets totally out of whack for about a month until he gets used to that pattern. His body has to reset that circadian rhythm. So it's like your body's timer or your body's clock. So I just read a study. Now this was all done in mice, and there are some problems with extrapolating mice studies to human beings, and on top of that it was done on mice brain cells, not on actual mice. Now they're in the trials where they're actually going to the mice and trying to duplicate this in an actual mouse body instead of in a petri dish. But they took mouse brain cells and they induced Alzheimer's disease in them. People with Alzheimer's have been shown to, pretty much 100%, they develop an amyloid plaque in the brain, this sticky protein, and it's been in like 100% of Alzheimer's victims that have donated their body to science afterward, and it's found in the exact same place in the left center part of the brain. But so we know there's a link between Alzheimer's and this. And what these researchers found is that our brains normally make this white blood cell, this macrophage that eats that amyloid plaque. But if your brain is not functioning correctly, it loses its ability to clear that plaque. And they know that has something to do with Alzheimer's. They just don't know which came first, the chicken or the egg. Does the plaque show up first and the macrophages eat it, or does Alzheimer's set in first and then the plaque forms? Because nobody that's still alive will donate their brain to science. But that would be a good thing to figure out. So coming research, that's cutting edge research, no pun intended. And so stay tuned, because I'm going to be following that line of thought as they move from mice in mice brain cells to actual mice, and then of course they'll try to duplicate it in lawyers first, hopefully, and see where it goes from there. So it's consistently finding that a lack of sleep does cause foggy brain and could be decreasing, just stands to reason it could be decreasing your brain's ability to clean itself up. So it's worth getting that 8 hours of sleep. So if that doesn't convince you, I don't know what will. But there are six ways that getting enough sleep can have a positive effect on your body. So my health tip for the week, well, that's a gimme. Get more sleep. Get healthy sleep. Don't drink or eat too much right before you go to bed. Don't eat refined carbohydrates right before you go to bed. Make sure you're up for a couple hours after your last meal so that your body can digest that food properly and move it on through the system. And then getting a better night's sleep might just lead to a healthier you. And that's what we're all about this month, is love rules. So have a good week. I'll see you again next week for another version of Wisdom Wednesday.